CBS 12 News starts now with breaking news.
I'm Ashley Glass, and as we come on the air right now, we are following that breaking news. I-95 closed in both directions because of a brush fire in northern Indian River County. Fellsmere Police Department saying this fire has taken over at least 150 acres of the St. Sebastian Buffer Preserve. We have team coverage. Let's get right to it. Let's go to Sam first for a look at your traffic workarounds.
But right now, both sides of I-95 are shut down between Indian River County and Brevard County, just to our north. So you can see the red line here on the map leading up to County Road 512, which is also Fellsmere Road. That's where the northbound lanes of I-95 are shut down in Indian River County. That is where Florida Highway Patrol is diverting traffic off of the interstate. So if you are heading north, you can exit I-95 earlier in Vero Beach, or you can head off here at Fellsmere Road. And then your two best options to work around this closure are going to be to take either Babcock Street north or head east to US 1. You can take that north as an alternate as well. You can reconnect to I-95 at Malabar Road.
Our team coverage continues right now. CBS 12 News reporter Al Peffley joins us from the Street View right here live in Fellsmere. So Al, what does the scene look like right now?
Well, right now I'm standing alongside I-95. This is the northbound side of 95. And if you zoom in down there, you can see where the smoke is covering the interstate, blanketing the interstate right now. And so that's why they have closed it to traffic, both northbound and southbound here. I'm told that the fire started sometime around 7:30 or so this morning in a state nature preserve, which is north of Fellsmere. And it's burning now. According to some information we just got a moment ago, they now believe it's covering about 250 acres in size. They say, however, no homes are threatened at this time, so they're not anticipating having to evacuate anybody. With us right now is Keith Touchberry, the Fellsmere Police Department chief. Thanks for joining us, sir. What can you tell us about this?
Absolutely. Well, the fire started about 7:30 this morning. In the southeast quadrant of the St. Sebastian Buffer Preserve, just north of the Indian River County shooting range in the city limits, we believe in the city limits of Fellsmere, and burned gradually to the west. It eventually jumped I-95, and so crews are working on both sides. It has already crossed over a natural gas line that exists on the west side of the interstate that parallels I-95. And it's approaching the power line area where there's a substantial clearing that can act as a fire break. But the power line clearing is not as wide as the interstate, so crews are going to have to be mindful that it doesn't jump there. Fortunately, the St. Sebastian Buffer Park has done a control burn recently in that area, and they expect that control burn will help slow the spread of the fire to the west because that area is obviously already burned out.
Okay. Is there any word on when 95 might be reopened?
No word. That would be Florida Highway Patrol to make that determination, but it is closed right now between County Road 512 and the St. John's Heritage Parkway, which is about the mile marker 164. And traffic is largely bypassing through the city of Fellsmere on County Road 512 through County Road 507.
Any idea how it started?
Unknown at this time. They're right now just trying to work to contain it. I think the investigation on that will happen after they get this thing under control.
Are you worried that any homes may be in danger right now?
Well, there's currently no homes in danger at the moment, but we are telling folks who live in and around the St. Sebastian Buffer Preserve, particularly on the west side of the interstate, the southwest quadrant, we're telling them to be watching the skies and be mindful of the fire and to be monitoring local news and social media so they have an understanding about what they should do. But we're telling folks that they should be ready.
Okay, good. Thank you for joining us, Chief. We'll be talking to you again, I'm sure, as the day wears on here. So, again, a 250-acre brush fire north of Fellsmere. No homes are threatened right now, but it has closed I-95 in both directions. Live near Fellsmere, Al Peffley, CBS 12 News.
All right, Alan, you can tell from his live shot there, it's really windy today, certainly not helping matters. Let's go to meteorologist Zach Covey now.
Yeah, and Ashley, you're exactly right. We had that very large area of weather that is really just kind of exacerbating, if you will, this big fire. Let's go ahead and see if we can zoom on in on camera 3 here, over here to Small Bay. Vero Beach looks absolutely beautiful on one shot, and then you go to the radar image and you saw what Al was just dealing with, and it just tells a completely different story. Smoke is blowing to the west, and if we zoom on in, this is the downtown Fellsmere area, okay? So Fellsmere by far, if you are north of 512, being blown out with widespread smoke. So you're certainly smelling it. Residents in this area, especially north of 512, want to stay in their homes because that's going to cause some respiratory issues, especially if you have something like asthma, for example. This smoke is not helping. Very thick smoke being picked up on our radar screen right now. We are under critical fire conditions up in that area today, meaning fires can easily spread and become very difficult to contain as they spread rapidly. Today's highest fire threat for a place like Fellsmere is going to be between the noon and 6 p.m. hour. That's when we have our lowest relative humidity, which makes things very dry, and our highest wind speeds, which can help to kind of spread those flames wider across the Fellsmere area. So until 6 p.m., we are going to continue to have very dry, very windy conditions in the Fellsmere area. This is something that quite honestly, Ashley, could mean that this fire could grow above that 250-acre mark. As we just heard Al say, this could be easily a 500-acre fire by the time firefighters get this under control.
It's at 250 acres right now. We will continue to come back and update this story as we need to right here on air. But for now, we want to turn to some other big stories of the day in our coronavirus coverage. It's your last chance to get a COVID test at any of the mass vaccination sites in our area. See, all their sites are closing today. Sites at the ballpark at the Palm Beaches, Town Center, and FIU's Tech Runway in Boca Raton will have last call today. Palm Beach County officials say about 900,000 tests have been done since the pandemic started. COVID tests are still available at doctors' offices and pharmacies. And right now, millions of doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines are in jeopardy. Manufacturer of the vaccine says more than 100 million doses are on hold and possibly contaminated. The company says the Food and Drug Administration found a number of safety violations at its Baltimore plant, including cross-contamination. That plant also makes ingredients for AstraZeneca's vaccine. Federal health officials are investigating and will decide which doses, if any, are safe to use. People who got the Pfizer vaccine in December may be due to get a third booster shot this fall. The company's CEO announced this week the third shot may be necessary 8 to 12 months after getting the second dose. The company's on track to make 6 billion more doses in the next 2 years. The Palm Beach County School District is further relaxing its mask guidelines, but not by much here. Masks are now optional for students who are outside in courtyards or hallways, along with playgrounds and gym classes. Masks are still required indoors at all times. This change comes after parents protested outside district headquarters, followed by a heated board meeting. We reported on it all week long. Next year, masks will be optional everywhere on campus. And today, we are learning new details about the suspect facing charges for attacking an elderly woman in our Martin County home. It's a crime officials say should have never happened, since this 20-year-old accused of sexual battery was in the country illegally. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says Martin Mendoza came to the U.S. in 2016 as an unaccompanied minor from Guatemala and was apparently seeking asylum. But we're told he didn't finish the process. According to prosecutors, he was arrested at least 2 times for juvenile battery and grand theft. In 2019, just 3 years after he arrived, he was arrested for exposing himself in a park in Stewart. A former Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent says Mendoza should have been deported then.
To have something like this happen actually hurts us, actually makes us feel sad that we let this lady down. We let this lady become a victim of a predator.
We interviewed the Martin County Sheriff's Office, and the sheriff blames ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, for dropping the ball. He says his office routinely notifies ICE when they have a foreign national in their custody. Our I-team spoke to a federal source who said, according to their information, Mendoza was in fact in the country legally. So still many questions remain in sorting this whole thing out. Changes are being made in light of that attempted kidnapping caught on video in Pensacola this week. By now, I'm sure you've seen it. The frightening video, an 11-year-old girl almost getting abducted from her school bus stop. Here's the video. You could see her waiting for the bus earlier this week when a man drives up, gets out of the car, tries to grab her. The girl's mother now says the district has agreed to move her bus stop back to the front of their neighborhood so she and other neighbors can keep an eye on her. Investigators say the man who tried to take the child was armed with a knife and later taken into custody. Still ahead right here at noon, a truce after 11 days of deadly fighting between Israel and Hamas militants. Why tensions are still high in this region. And this video is from the Stuart Roosevelt Bridge as we're taking a look at our Drone 12 shot of the day, everyone. We'll be right back.
FEM, proud sponsors of the CBS 12 News Network, the one to turn to.
Fragile ceasefires holding in the Middle East after 11 days of deadly fighting between Israel and Hamas militants. But tensions in this region remain very high. CBS's Tina Cross has more from London.
Israeli security forces clashed with Palestinian protesters in Jerusalem just hours after the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect. The scuffles broke out at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where overnight thousands of Palestinians were celebrating the truce that ended nearly 2 weeks of deadly attacks between Israel and Hamas militants. On the bombed-out streets of Gaza, where Israeli airstrikes killed more than 240 people, some are in no mood to celebrate. Azar Nasir says the truce is for people who didn't suffer or lose loved ones and their homes like we did. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns if Gaza's militant Hamas rulers fire more rockets at Israel, they'll respond with a new level of force. 12 people died in Israel, and some residents don't think the break in hostilities will last.
It's only a matter of time until the next operation in Gaza. So it will take 1 year, it will take 2 years or 5 years, but we'll continue to fight.
In this latest round of fighting, analysts believe there are no winners in a decades-old conflict that just keeps getting repeated. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
To that breaking news now, this brush fire covering northern Indian River County. We know this fire's taken over, this brush fire, about 250 acres in the area of the St. Sebastian Buffer Preserve. No homes are threatened at this point. That is the good news here. We just had a live interview with authorities. They say they don't know at this point how it started. They're telling people in this area to keep an eye on your phone, on the Twitter alerts from the Fellsmere Police Department. They're going to let everyone know if things change and anyone needs to get out of the way of this 250-acre brush fire right now. But again, at this point, no homes threatened. I want to go back to meteorologist Zach Covey. You know, what are the wind conditions like there, Zach? Pretty windy as they're trying to fight this one.
Yeah, the winds are still 20, 30 miles per hour up there, and we'll get to that in just a second. But, I mean, you bring up a very good point. To any residents up in the Sebastian and Fellsmere area, please, please, please stay inside, pay attention to your phones. The reason we say stay inside is the air quality from that type of a fire, especially 250 plus acres, is going to really diminish. So if you have issues on a normal day with air quality, today's going to be a bad day for you up there. So just stay inside, watch CBS 12. Don't worry, we'll bring you all the updates. I will get to more on that Fellsmere weather conditions and the windy conditions elsewhere. But first, we want to talk tropics because we also are tracking 2 tropical systems. We do have one system out in the Atlantic right now, just to the north and east of Bermuda, a 90% chance of development. This is already producing 60-mile-per-hour winds. Why is it not named? It is yet to get a tropical center. However, we're starting to see signs of organization. And in fact, the last satellite pass, in my honest opinion, my tropical experience kind of seemed like it was tropical in nature. So we'll see at what happens at the 2 p.m. update. They may wait until 5 p.m., but I do believe this has finally obtained a tropical center. Now it's going to be up to the Hurricane Center. This is no threat to the United States, but it is going to create some really wicked waves off the east coast of Florida through the weekend. Surfers, you know what that means for you. Everybody else, please stay out of the water unless you're a strong swimmer. We're going to have big rip currents this weekend. The other system is out in the Gulf of Mexico. 40% chance of development. We've got a really defined low-level center. but it lacks thunderstorms. And for that reason, this center is not developing either. It does have a 30-mile-per-hour wind. If it can create some thunderstorms around the center, like our computer models suggest could happen late tonight before it moves onshore tomorrow, it could briefly obtain tropical depression status. I do not expect a name out of that system. Regardless if it gets a depression number or not, it's going to bring a lot of rain to Louisiana and East Texas, locations that do not need them. All right, so Ashley, it is beautiful out in Boca. It is beautiful really all across the area. We're sitting in the 80s, but this is the issue, the winds, okay? East winds gusting to near 30 in West Palm, 31 in Stewart. Look at Vero Beach, 25, that's near Fellsmere. And it is these winds that are going to continue to be up there throughout the afternoon, Ashley. And for that reason, we're going to really need to watch that brush fire up in Indian River County. For everybody else, don't burn today, okay? If you're going outside trying to start a fire, you could be running into issues. 10-day forecast, hot, windy over the next several days. We'll keep this type of weather going for a bit.
Yeah, I want to tell you too, jump on Twitter with our Al Pefley. He's posting updates. He's right there in the area of this brush fire, keeping an eye on things too, passing along any important updates. I want to take